Sterling Heights Academy exuded luxury and exclusivity. Walking through its halls was like stepping into a closed club where only powerful surnames guaranteed entry. For many, it was a world of privilege, tradition, and unspoken rules. To Amara Johnson, it was a daily battlefield. She did not come from a traditional family, had no influential relatives, and her name was not engraved on any wing of the library. She had gotten in on merit. Full scholarship, impeccable grades, and a dedication that made her ignore the disdainful looks. That morning, Amara was focused. AP Calculus in 5 minutes. A complicated quiz ahead. No time for distractions. But Sterling Heights never made things easy. As soon as he turned the second-floor hallway, your path was blocked. There he was, Preston Langston, 198 of pure arrogance. Perfectly styled blonde hair, impeccable uniform, and the crooked smile that made half the girls sigh and the other half temlo. He was an uncrowned king, and I would like to remind everyone of that. Look who showed up, Johnson. His voice dripped with sarcasm. Amara stopped. I already knew where this was going. The hallways fell silent. The students, they knew the rules. When Preston chose a target, no one interfered. You have 5 seconds to get out of my way, Amara said without patience. Preston smiled wider. What if I don't leave? She sighed. So it's your problem. His smile disappeared. He approached. Too big, too invasive. People like you don't belong here. And then he pushed. Not strong enough to knock her down, but enough to leave a message, to make a warning, to test her limits. Time stopped. Cell phones appeared in hands. The silent audience held its breath. Amara looked down, adjusted the strap of her backpack. He took a deep breath. When he looked up, he had already made his decision. She dropped her backpack on the floor and moved quickly, very fast. Before Preston could react, Amara grabbed his wrist, turned her body, and threw it over his shoulder. He hit the ground with a dry bang. The king was on the floor. For a moment, no one breathed. And then, like an avalanche, the hall exploded. My God! She destroyed him! Did anyone filmed this? Preston lay flat on his back, eyes wide, trying to process what had just happened. Amara picked up her backpack from the floor and stepped over him as if it were just a stain on the floor. I warned you, and went to class, because I had a quiz to do, but she had no idea what would come next. The video spread before the halftime signal. In the cafeteria, in the hallways, even in the library, everyone talked about the same thing. Preston Langston, the untouchable boy, had been thrown to the ground like a sack of potatoes. The comments didn't stop. Dude, did you see the video? She destroyed him. Preston will never be able to walk around here again without being joked about. Amara is a monster. Does she teach self-defense? Amara noticed the change immediately. People who had never spoken to her before were wanting to get closer. The same school that ignored her now whispered his name through the corridors. But not everyone was laughing. Preston was furious. Sitting at a table in the corner of the cafeteria, he stared at his cell phone screen, watching the video again and again, his jaw clenched, his face red with anger. He was always the guy who dictated the rules. The school revolved around him. And now? Now he was the joke. His friends, Jace, Ethan, and Marcus, tried to cheer him up. This will pass, man, Jace said. It was just luck. She wouldn't do it again, Ethan added, more Preston. I didn't want to hear excuses. He wanted revenge. In the middle of chemistry class, Amara's cell phone vibrated. Unknown number. The message was short. Jim, after school, let's figure this out. She sighed. Of course he wouldn't. Let it go cheaply. But he made a mistake. Amara. I wasn't afraid of him. Amara didn't hesitate. She knew what awaited her in the gym. But that didn't mean he wasn't alert. When he pushed open the gym's double doors, the hollow sound echoed through. the empty space. The bleachers were closed. The fluorescent lights cast a yellowish glow on the polished floor. It looked deserted, but it wasn't. "Big mistake coming here alone, Johnson." Preston's voice came from the sidelines. He stepped out of the shadows, the same arrogant smile as always, but this time his eyes were different, darker, colder, and I wasn't alone. Behind him, Jace, Ethan, and Marcus emerged from the sides of the stands, 4 against 1. Amara raised an eyebrow. "So that was it? Did you need reinforcements?" Preston gritted his teeth. "This is not about having help, it's about respect." She crossed her arms. "No, Preston. It's about wounded pride." His face tightened in anger. She had nailed it. Jace was the first to step forward, fast but clumsy. Amara turned to the side and extended her leg in a precise strike. Jace collapsed to the floor, groaning. Ethan tried to grab her from behind. Bad idea. She ducked and threw her elbow back, hitting him, his ribs hard. Ethan stumbled, coughing. Marcus hesitated. Too big, too strong, but slow. Amara threw herself forward and landed a sharp kick to his chest. 3 on the floor. Preston, now alone, could no longer hide behind his friends. He was breathing heavily, his fists clenched. It was just the 2 of them now, and this time he had nowhere to run. The gym was silent. Preston's friends were still groaning on the floor, holding their ribs, trying to catch their breath. But he didn't look at them. His eyes were fixed on Amara. His breathing was heavy, his face red with anger and humiliation. He has never been so vulnerable. "Raise your hands," Amara said, her voice calm, almost bored. Preston clenched his fists tightly. "You think you're smart, don't you?" She shrugged. "Just smart enough not to get into a fight I can't win." He advanced. This time, without thinking, his blows were uncontrolled, driven by hatred, predictable. Amara dodged it easily. He was fighting his own ego, not her. When he missed a harder punch, she saw her chance. He bent down, rotated his hips, and swept her legs with a swift stroke. Preston fell. Again. The impact echoed through the gym. He lay there, with his back, on the floor, his eyes wide. Amara crouched down beside him, her voice low and steady. "You lost, Preston." He closed his eyes, breathing hard. "This is not over." She smiled sideways. "Of course, because what's really over is your reign." She got up and walked to the exit, leaving Preston on the ground. This time, there was no applause. There was no celebration, just the weight of silence, and the truth he could no longer ignore. The next morning, Sterling Heights Academy. It was no longer the same. The video of the confrontation in the gym had already spread. There was no doubt. Preston Langston, the high school king, had fallen. The whispers in the hallways were replaced by something new. Looks, some of admiration, others of fear, but none of the disrespect. When Amara entered the cafeteria for the first time, no one looked away to pretend it didn't exist. At the popular table, Preston sat, head down, eyes fixed on the tray of untouched food. His friends, Jace, Ethan, and Marcus, were there, but none of them spoke. The silence was deafening. Amara picked up her lunch and went to her usual table, but this time, something unexpected happened. Margot, one of the most influential girls in school, he got up and walked towards her. "Hi, can I sit?" Amara raised an eyebrow. "Since when do you want to sit with me?" Margot smiled a little awkwardly. "Since you showed that this school doesn't need to revolve around him." She indicated Preston with a quick glance. Amara studied Margot for a moment and then shrugged. "Make yourself comfortable." As Margot sat, other students started to look at Amara in a different way, no longer like a stranger, but as a leader. Sterling Heights Academy was a high school. Traditions, And Preston Langston has always been one of them. For years, his name was synonymous with can. Your circle of friends controlled who rose and fell in the social hierarchy. He made the rules, but now, no one followed them anymore. The gym humiliation was definitive. His friends were still there, but they didn't look at him the same way. Before, they followed him. Now they just tolerated him. Amara had done the unthinkable. She changed the game. But unlike Preston, she did not want to rule by fear. The following week, she was still receiving looks of admiration and respect, but she refused to let it go to her head. She continued focused on studies, sports, and her own goals. One afternoon, as she was putting her books away in her closet, she heard a voice behind her. "I just wanted to understand how you did it." She turned and saw Preston. He didn't seem arrogant or angry. He seemed lost. She closed the closet and crossed her arms. Did what? He became someone that people really respect. Amara let out a short laugh. Simple. I never needed to make anyone feel afraid for this. Preston didn't respond. He just nodded and walked away. And in that moment, Amara knew. He finally understood. 2 months later, the climate in Sterling Heights Academy, it was different. It wasn't just Preston who had changed. The whole school changed. The old, unspoken rules no longer had the same weight. Students no longer followed a system of fear. Power no longer belonged to surnames, social status, or money. And Amara? She didn't want to be a queen. She just wanted her space. But somehow it became a symbol. In the gym, a group of students trained in self-defense after class. Some of them had suffered from bullies before. Now, no more. In the cafeteria, Preston still had his place, but he was no longer the center of the universe. He spoke less. I watched more. He still carried his arrogance, but something about him had changed. One afternoon, as Amara was leaving practice, her cell phone vibrated. Message from unknown number. Thank you for changing things. She smiled. It didn't even need a name. She already knew that her victory, it wasn't just hers. It was from everyone who learned that they no longer needed to lower their heads. And that, it was just the beginning.